The new school year is about to start in Russia, and for pupils in some regions bordering Ukraine, that means classes under wartime conditions. Ukraine's incursion into the Kursk region is entering its fourth week, but it seems school kids there and elsewhere in Russia are being told everything's fine.
School will start soon for these Russian children. They have been evacuated following Ukraine's incursion into Russia's Kursk region.
Depending on the situation, there will be remote learning in regions people are moving to, hybrid or in person.
Both the Kursk as well as the neighboring Belgorod region issue air raid alerts on a daily basis and have started building shelters. Belgorod's governor also announced that schools and kindergartens in several districts will be covered with this protective film. But on state TV, the school year seems to be starting smoothly.
How are the preparations for the school year?
Everything will be ready on time.
What's missing in the school?
We have received an amazing new modern school.
All that seems to be part of the Kremlin strategy to depict a new normal despite Ukraine's ongoing offensive.
The Kremlin wants to keep Russians in the state when they do not think about what's going on, and if something is happening, some troubles are taking place. And schools, of course, is the place where not only school children can be brainwashed in a certain way, but their parents can be influenced as well.
The state TV's evening news also shows off another new school, with modern technical equipment and a Putin portrait in the classroom. It is reportedly located in the so-called Luhansk People's Republic in eastern Ukraine that Russia annexed in 2022. On state TV, it is shown as Russian territory. The war already reached classrooms long before Ukraine's incursion. Classes that teach patriotism and the Kremlin's version of the war in Ukraine have been added to the curriculum in 2022.
There are special lessons where school children are told about, how the West conspired against Russia all the time, and how Russia was forced to respond.
Over the course of the war, it has introduced mandatory basic military training in high school. Something that has become even more relevant now with Ukrainian soldiers on Russian territory.
For more on that, we're now joined by DW reporter Janina Semyonova in Riga. Janina, why are changes being made to Russia's school curriculum?
Well, it kind of seems that Russia has turned its school into a training camp for future soldiers. I mean, children learn how to fire Kalashnikovs, for example. We have soldiers that fought in Ukraine who are being invited to talk to children. And reportedly, there now will also be classes that teach how to fly combat drones. But it's not just militarization in schools, it's also about ideology. A Kremlin aide actually rewrote a history book, a Russian history book for high school that really now seeks to justify Russia's war in Ukraine and conveys this propaganda image that Russia is fighting this big enemy that is not just Ukraine, but also the West. So in a sense, I would really say schools in Russia have really become an ideological battleground.
Now, Ukraine's incursion is in its fourth week, and Russia still hasn't managed to repel Ukrainian forces in Kursk and Belgorod region. How is that being reported in Russia?
Well, on state TV, it's really being reported as if everything was under control. We see successful hits against the Ukrainian military in the affected regions. We see alleged successful humanitarian support for people who have been evacuated. But the Kremlin kind of continues to downplay this incursion and kind of seems to be not even to be trying to sell it to the public. Putin is continuing to speak of a mere situation that is developing. and he has not visited any affected regions. He has not visited refugees in shelters or anything like that. But also the Russian president has a history kind of waiting big crises out, of hiding during them. We've seen that, for example, during the COVID pandemic, or during last year's mutiny by the Wagner chief Prigozhin. And also, I think experts are saying now that the Kremlin is kind of waiting for a big military achievement in Donbas in eastern Ukraine that it could actually use as a compensation for this embarrassment, really, that Ukraine's incursion into the Kursk region has now been. But in general, there seems to be this effort to show that it's business as usual. Life goes on. For example, in the Kursk region, regional elections haven't been postponed due to the incursion. Instead, they're being held early now. So again, that is also part of this image of life goes on. That is just the normal, that the new normal that people are experiencing these days with Ukraine's incursion already in its fourth week.
Janina Semyonova there, reporting from Riga. Thank you, Janina.